So let's begin with our motivation. And like I was saying this morning, to really see bodhicitta as our best friend, and to see the taking and giving meditation as the remedy to our difficulties when we don't get what we want or when we get what we don't want. And especially in these times when there is so much violence and so much hatred and confusion around us and in the world, to have the mind of compassion that takes all of these upon ourselves and uses them to demolish our own self-centeredness. So really seeing these qualities as simply that, qualities of suffering sentient beings. Imagine taking the prejudice and hatred and craziness from the sentient beings, voluntarily accepting it ourselves, using it to destroy our own self-centeredness. And then with a joyful mind that is free of self-centeredness and free of self-grasping ignorance, to imagine transforming and multiplying our body, possessions, and merit, and giving it to those very sentient beings. So instead of running away from suffering and feeling overwhelmed by it, we take it upon ourselves and use it to enhance our Dharma practice. And in that way, the bodhicitta becomes firmer and stronger. So with this motivation to benefit sentient beings in this way, then we'll listen to the Gomchen Lamrim. Okay, so people, especially those online, may be wanting or expecting me to talk something about the mess that America is in now, between two seemingly unwarranted killings of black men who didn't do anything wrong, and then many demonstrations across the country for Black Lives Matter. And in Dallas, a couple of blocks away from where JFK was shot, that during the protest, somebody opened fire on the police, and 5 police officers were killed and 7 were injured. So I'm saying this because some of you may not have read the news since the retreat ended. So it's this happened in the downtown section of a major U.S. city, and the videos looked like what you would expect from a Hollywood movie. You know, it was completely insane. So I want to talk about that tomorrow during the BBC, but I just mention this now because some people may know and be concerned about it, and to really say that the taking and giving meditation is very good to do with this, because otherwise you kind of sit there in a state of shock and you can't believe that this is happening around you. And then, of course, everybody's blah, blah afterwards. Yeah. So it just emphasizes more and more, like my motivation for the morning teachings. Yeah, I knew about this at that time too. It should motivate us more and more to deepen our compassion, deepen our concern for sentient beings, and really use the taking and giving meditation to transform that situation instead of just kind of throwing up your hands and saying, this is an insane asylum, and how did I get here? Yeah, because we got here by virtue of, or by non-virtue of our own deeds, okay? So, yeah. So let's transform it all into something that enhances our practice. So it's interesting that in the last few weeks we were talking about the 6 root afflictions, weren't we? So they're the ones that are responsible for all this craziness. And so, it's really good. You study something like the 6 root afflictions, and then you look at what happened in Baton Rouge and in St. Paul and then in Dallas, and you say which afflictions were involved in these different things that happened. And then you can see very clearly how, how the afflictions cause us sentient beings to harm each other, thereby harming ourselves. Yeah, it becomes very evident when you look. Mm-hmm. So that also, we look in the world and we also look in our own lives at how these things work. And then, the conclusion is the Buddha really knew what he was talking about. So it deepens our refuge in the Buddha. And second, I have those same mental afflictions, and so I need to get rid of them before they make me act in some kind of crazy way like this. Yeah, because we can't just point the finger at other people and say, they're overwhelmed by arrogance or cruelty or hatred or something like that, but I'm, crystal clear Miss Purity. No, we are in samsara. We have all 84,000 afflictions. We haven't abandoned any of them. So until we've abandoned them, they can increase, they can decrease, they can cause all sorts of havoc. Okay, so it's, really showing us that we need to stay focused on our practice. Okay, so, I wanted to open Gomchen Lamrim 2 so that we can just read the section we covered and have that lung, I guess you could say. So we just covered the section that's called Identifying Afflictions. And it says, like seeds lacking moisture, although you have numerous karmas, if you lack afflictions, the seedlings of suffering will not grow. So become an expert on how to rely on the afflictions' remedies. So what this means is, we have a storehouse of the seeds of destructive karma. What waters them and makes them bear their results are the afflictions. So explicitly at the time of death, the afflictions of craving and clinging are like moisture that make the karma, the propelling karma, ripen, that propels us or throws us into a next rebirth. And even in this lifetime, the various afflictions that arise in our mind can act as fertilizer and water to nourish and make sprout other completing karmas that influence the events that we experience in this life. Okay, so it says, become an expert on how to rely on the afflictions remedies, and then it goes on to list the afflictions. Okay, but he doesn't tell you the remedies here. So we'll have a little quiz and see if you remember. Okay, so attachment clings to pleasant objects. What are some of the remedies for that attachment? Meditating on impermanence.
Meditating on the unattractiveness or the undesirability of the object.
Yeah, meditating on the unattractiveness, the undesirability of the object, because attachment clings to pleasant objects. If you start to see the object with its faults and disadvantages and ugliness, then you're not going to cling to it anymore.
The disadvantages of attachment itself.
Yeah, and the disadvantages of attachment. Okay. The one I often find very helpful is if I'm attached to something, I play out the whole scene in my mind of getting it. And, oh, I got this, and isn't this wonderful? And then I go, like Rinpoche did to me, and then, and then am I perfectly happy forever after? No. I'm right back where I started from, dissatisfied, except now craving for something else. Okay. The second one, anger is a harsh state of mind, a hostile attitude in relation to its objects. So what are the antidotes?
Meditate on fortitude.
Meditate on fortitude and love. Okay.
Compassion.
Yeah, compassion. Okay. And the disadvantages of anger, of which there are plenty. Yeah. Yeah. So we just have to remember them when we're angry. Usually we think of the benefits of anger, or we fabricate benefits of anger when we're angry. Yeah. 3, arrogance is an inflated state of mind that takes on the aspect of superiority. What are the antidotes?
Rejoicing in others' good qualities.
Yeah, rejoicing in others' good qualities. That's a specific one for jealousy. Yeah. But because this one's, we're superior. So we can rejoice at others' good qualities as long as they're lower than us. Okay. Yeah, meditate on the 18 constituents and the 12 sources, because these are all components that make up the person, and when we meditate on these, we begin to see that we can't find a person within all the components that make up the person. Yeah? What else?
Really difficult topics that we're having trouble understanding.
Yeah, they're also difficult topics that we have trouble understanding.
Everything that we know has been somebody else taught us.
Yeah, that everything we know, whatever we're arrogant about, comes from other living beings who taught us, encouraged us, and so on. It's not ours.
Like the one you said before, if I were the best at something, the world would be serious.
Yeah. If I were the best, we're in dire straits. Okay, then.
Reading the 7 types of pride or arrogance, very humbling too.
Yeah.
Sobering.
Sobering, yes, when you think of the 7 kinds of arrogance. Then you realize you have all of them. And what's there to be proud about then? Okay, 4 is ignorance. So here it's an afflictive lack of awareness of the 4 truths and so on. What's the antidote?
Meditate on practice. Study, practice.
Study, reflect, and meditate.
On?
On karma. independent arising. An emptiness.
Well, we're slowly getting it. Okay, for the ignorance of the ultimate truth, what do we meditate on? Wisdom of what?
Realizing emptiness.
Realizing emptiness. For the ignorance of conventional truths,
Dependent arising.
Karma and effects.
yeah, karma and its effects. Okay. Okay, then doubt is a state of mind divided between what exists and what does not exist, what a thing is and what it is not. So how do we remedy doubt?
Develop faith.
Meditate on points.
Now we're hearing a lot of different things. One says wisdom, one says faith. Okay. So you have doubt about whether samsara really exists. Then, what do you need to generate to overcome that doubt?
Faith. Faith in your teachers, faith in karma.
Faith in the Buddhist
Confidence in your teacher and teachings.
Yeah, and I think we need to meditate and check against your own experiences.
And this is interesting. So when you have doubts, yeah, about what to do, let's shift the object, doubts about what to do in your life, yeah, do you have faith as a remedy? No, you don't. Because if somebody gives you advice, you don't have faith in what that person says.
But you cultivate it if you're seeking guidance from a wise person, don't you? I do.
You check out the validity.
Huh?
You check it out,
Check out what?
whatever you have doubt in.
Yeah, you learn, you reflect, you meditate, you ask questions, you think about it. You don't just say, I believe. That doesn't quell doubts. Huh? Okay, 6, the view of the personal identity is an afflictive understanding that views the self and so forth incorrectly. What's the antidote to that?
Wisdom realizing emptiness.
Okay, the wisdom realizing emptiness there. Okay, extreme views consider the self as it is perceived by the view of the personal identity and see it as either eternal or subject to annihilation. So you have this inherently existent self that is either going to continue on like a soul or it's going to completely extinguish with nothing remaining at the time of death. So what do you do to remedy that?
Dependent arising.
Hmm?
Meditate on dependent arising.
Yeah, meditate on dependent arising. And emptiness too. Yeah, and their compatibility. Yeah, especially their compatibility. Okay, then 8 is holding to the superiority of views is an afflictive understanding that this one, I don't like the translation, that observes the aggregates of the view holder and the wrong view, etc., within him or her. It doesn't make any sense. What superior, holding to the superiority of views, thinks that your other wrong views are the best views to have. What's the remedy for that?
Investigation.
Investigation of?
Checking in if my view is really the right view or not. Checking in with other views.
Yeah, so you meditate to resolve the other views, and then you realize that this one's also incorrect. Okay, then 9, the view of rules and practices is an afflictive understanding that considers these wrong practices or wrong these misunderstandings of ethical conduct to be the paths to liberation. So what do you meditate for that? Karma and its effects. Okay? And also, again, emptiness, so that you have the right practice that leads to liberation. And then wrong view is an afflictive understanding that falls into denying what exists and affirming what does not. So, how do we remediate our wrong views about the three jewels, about rebirth, about whether awakening is possible, about whether sentient beings are inherently selfish? How do we remedy those kinds of wrong views?
Again, you investigate those views and others.
Yeah. You learn, you investigate. Yeah. You really apply your analytical wisdom. Okay? So all these views are states of afflictive intelligence, yeah, meaning that they look at their object, but they totally misunderstand the object. So to overcome them, you have to have a mind that correctly sees the object. Okay.
And I have a question about this faith business.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is that when we're cultivating conviction, it's like cultivating conviction karma, cultivating conviction in the teachings, and that whole process of developing faith is an investigative process, not just an I believe.
Yeah, but you didn't say that. You just said faith.
I said cultivating faith.
Yeah, but there's different kinds of faith,
Yeah.
And there's the faith that comes because you have learned and understood something.
Yeah.
Okay? But it's the learning and understanding that is what you really have to do.
Right. That's
The-
what I'm checking, because
Yeah.
that's my understanding of what cultivating faith would be, cultivating conviction and teachings.
Yeah, but that comes through investigation.
Okay.
Then the faith kind of comes as,
As a result.
as a result of understanding something. But that faith, see, this is why faith is not a very good translation for the term. It means more confidence or trust.
Conviction.
Well, there's different kinds of faith.
Right.
One kind, or confidence, one is based on conviction, but not all the kinds are based on conviction. So you can't translate faith as conviction, because they aren't the same thing. Okay, there's not a very good English word that is, really gives you the feeling of what's meant here. Speaking about arrogance,
The function of the mental factor of wisdom or knowledge is to cut doubt. So it seems like developing knowledge about different topics would be, or developing wisdom about different topics would be the antidote to doubt.
yeah, for sure. Because how are you going to dispel your doubt if you don't understand something? Yeah, you have to have that. And that's why His Holiness keeps emphasizing again and again, do analytical meditation. And I was reading something, he said that he does mostly analytical meditation. Yeah. He said 90% analytical, 10% stabilizing. Yeah. Okay. And I mean, he just emphasizes again and again, understand, investigate, think for yourself. Yeah, don't just say, oh yeah, Buddha said, or my teacher said, so I don't have to think about it. Okay, then the sequence in which the afflictions arise, that's the next topic. So this is an interesting one because there's two different ways of describing it, because there's two different views on whether ignorance and view of a personal identity, whether they overlap or whether they're two separate things. So from the viewpoint of both the Abhidharmakosha, the Treasury of Wisdom, and Asanga's compendium of Treasury of Knowledge, Vasubandhu's Treasury of Knowledge, and Asanga's compendium of knowledge, yeah, both of those, say that ignorance and view of a personal identity are two separate things. Ignorance is more like fog, and obscuration. You can't see clearly. And in the midst of that fog and obscuration, and, like that, then you mistake the five aggregates to be a self-sufficient, substantially existent self. Okay, that's how they describe it. So first you have the ignorance, and then you misconstrue, you misapprehend the aggregates to be a self. Okay, so that's the way they view it, because they see it as two different mental factors. But Dharmakirti and Chandrakirti, one of the things they agree on, because there's many things they don't agree on, but one of the things they agree on is that ignorance and view of the personal identity have the same way of grasping the person. Ignorance is broader because ignorance grasps at all phenomena as truly existent, or inherently existent, and view of a personal identity grasps only our own self as inherently existent. But the way they grasp, the way they misapprehend is the same. So they're said to overlap there. Okay? Okay, so if we go back to Vasubandhu's way, okay, there's a passage in the Treasury of Knowledge where he lays out the order of, or the sequence of how the afflictions develop. Okay, so it's very interesting because the order here, in many ways, is quite different from the the ones who assert that they're the same, how they talk about the development. So Vasubandhu says initially from first one, ignorance, okay, which is like this darkness, ignorance regarding the meaning of the four truths. Okay, from that, the second one, doubt arises, wondering whether there is or is not dukkha. That's interesting. Okay. From that, by relying on an inferior spiritual mentor, one engages in erroneous teachings and learning, which produce, third, wrong views that dukkha does not exist. I'm wondering here, I should go back to the quotation, if it means dukkha, etc., in other words, the Four Noble Truths. Yeah, it's just a question. I should recheck the quote here. Okay. So then you have the wrong view that dukkha does not exist. From that is produced, four, the view of a personal identity, which grasps the aggregates as I and mine. Now that, how do you get from the wrong view that dukkha does not exist to grasping the aggregates as I and mine? How does one provoke the other?
And how do you go from obviously an acquired step to what seems to be an innate step?
Well, the view of you mean from wrong view to view of a personal identity? That?
Yeah.
Well, from this school's viewpoint, I don't know that.
Arises, and then, what was the name of that step? So then you get to a wrong teacher, then you get to your wrong view, and then
Right.
you have that, like, hello?
Yeah. No, but the wrong view here, it says that suffering does not exist. That's why I'm thinking it might mean suffering and so forth, the Four Noble Truths. And then from that, it would make more sense that the view of a personal identity would arise. I'll have to go back and check the citation, okay? Then from there, that's the fourth one, from there it's easier to see that the view of extremes, which grasps at the permanence or annihilation of the aggregates, that arises. That's easy to see, okay? From that is produced the view holding bad ethics and modes of conduct as supreme, yeah, which grasps at the belief that there is purification from holding those extreme views. Okay? Yeah. The view holding bad ethics and modes of conduct as supreme. Usually, this one is defined as, thinking that just doing a ritual according to the text is how you accumulate good karma, or animal sacrifice is accumulating good karma, acting like a dog, all these funny kinds of things that people think will bring liberation. Yeah, that's what that sixth one is, okay? But here he's saying, which grasps the belief that there is purification from holding those extreme views. So maybe that there's something good coming out of those extreme views. And so that leads you in turn to understand how to arrive at liberation. Okay. From that, then the seventh one, view holding distorted views or wrong views as supreme, is produced. So that's easy to understand, because what was believed to provide purification is held as a supreme view. And then from that one feels conceit. Yeah, so you've built up this whole pile of wrong views, and then you have conceit, and then you have attachment to your own view, and then you have 10, hatred, which despises the views of others. Okay, so interesting, isn't it? Yeah, okay, how that one describes the sequence. Now, for the followers of Dharmakirti and Chandrakirti, yeah, then they have another sequence, and Dharmakirti said in Pramnavartika, once there is a self, then there is an idea of an other. Discriminating self and other, attachment and hostility arise. All of the faults come about in association with these. So Tsongkhapa describes the sequence is, first you have the view of the personal identity, which is ignorance, okay, and that apprehends a self. And through that, you come to discriminate between self and others. Because once you identify that there's a me, then, how do you identify me? In terms of other. So you make an other, okay? Okay. Yeah, so view of personal identity, which is ignorance, so those are two. Then the third one, is after you make that distinction, you become attached to what is associated with yourself, of course. And 4 is hostile towards that which pertains to others, because others get in your way. Okay. As you observe this self, your mind becomes 5, inflated with conceit. Okay. And you develop a belief that 6, this very self is either eternal or subject to annihilation. So that's the view of the extremes. And you come to believe in 7, the supremacy of a view of the self and the like, which is the view holding wrong views as supreme. So that we can see how that follows. And you also come to believe in 8, the supremacy of the detrimental practices associated with such views, which is view holding bad ethics and modes of conduct as supreme. Okay, and similarly, you develop 9, the wrong view, that denies the existence of the Buddha who taught selflessness and and the existence of everything he taught, such as karma and its effects, for truth, and so on. And if you don't generate wrong views, then 10, you develop doubt about whether these things exist or not. Okay, so it's interesting because in Vasubandhu's way, first you have you have ignorance and doubt, but then all these views, and even the ignorance and the doubt concern views. And you have view, and at the end, conceit, attachment, and anger. Here, in this one, you have view of the personal identity, which is ignorance, and discriminate self and other. And then you come to the non-views. You have attachment, you have hostility, you have conceit. And then from there, you go into the different kinds of views, and you have doubt at the end. Okay? So it's interesting to see the different sequences that are put forth, and to think, how do you think when you look in your own experience, how did these things arise in you?
So in the second one, when you develop doubt, so after you've gone through all of these wrong views, at the end you're still not sure of what you believe in?
Well, you have these different views, and then because you have all these wrong views, then you have the wrong view about the Buddha, and thinking that maybe the Buddha didn't teach this, or the Buddha didn't know what he was talking about, or if you don't have wrong views, then you doubt whether those things are real or not.
What the Buddha taught?
Yeah.
Okay, so the doubt's in regards to the Buddha's teachings, not to your own wrong thinking.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. It's all doubt regarding the view, regarding how things exist.
Yeah, but you attributed that to Sankara?
Yeah. I have it here, volume, here it says volume 1, page 300. You can check it out.
When we talk about conceit here, is this the conceit of I am?
No, it just means conceit or arrogance in general.
What is the conceit of I am?
It's one type of arrogance, or one type of conceit. It's kind of a special type. The other kinds of arrogance, I'm better than this person, I'm just as good as this person, I'm lower than this person, I'm almost as good as these really big shots. All those seem much more in comparison things. I'm better, I'm worse, somehow I'm special. But the conceit of I am is just, I don't need to compare myself to anybody because I am. Yeah. Seems like.
That everybody has, because we all.
Yeah, everybody has that kind of conceit. Yeah. So, it's hard whether to call this whole thing, because there's 7 different types, and there's different lists of what the 7 types are. Because in Precious Garland, Nagarjuna describes them slightly differently as, and so you don't know whether to translate all of them as arrogance or as conceit. You know, arrogance seems better for some of them, conceit seems better for others. So you do what you can.
I missed number 7 of the list that you have the Chandrakriti's.
Of the second
Yes,
second one,
second one.
it's view holding wrong views as supreme. Okay? Okay, so then the question is, you know, what makes our afflictions arise? And this is a very, very important topic, because if we can understand the causes and conditions that activate or trigger our afflictions, then we can prevent those triggers, and in that way, you know, not fall under the sway of our afflictions so much. Okay? So, you know, it's an interesting thing in our society, because a lot of people think our afflictions come because of the body and the brain. Yeah? Why am I angry? Because this part of my prefrontal cortex is blipping. Yeah. Why am I an alcoholic? Because my genes are doing na 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 na. Okay. You know, so the whole movement now in society is to really focus on things being physical and things being material, and how we behave being due to the chemical processes and electrical processes in our brain, and also certain genetic factors. Yeah. Personally, I think there's a lot of danger. I mean, aside from it being wrong view, I think there's a lot of danger in attributing things to physical causes. I don't deny that physical causes can be a cooperative condition or can nudge something to go forward. Yeah. You know, because they have shown that, you know, if you increase certain chemicals in the brain, it increases a certain emotion or something like that. But I think that to say they cause instead of they correlate, yeah, and even maybe I misspoke saying that the state of the brain, you know, increases that emotion. It could be that it just correlates with the increase or decrease of such an emotion. We don't really know. But to attribute a causal factor, I think, can be dangerous. First, because then it makes it easy for us not to take personal responsibility for our actions. Why am I an alcoholic? I had one of the inmates write to me, you know, like, I'm getting out and it's going to be really hard for me to be clean. Why? Because my mother was an alcoholic and I inherited her genes. Yeah, I think that is very disempowering to him, you know, because then he feels like, you know, everything is working against him. For other people, that kind of view is just, well, you know, I can't help it. I have no responsibility for, you know, my bad temper or my bad habits or whatever it is. It's just hardwired into me, so don't ask me to change. I'm just like that. You better accept it. Okay? So again, it's abdicating personal responsibility and taking a very dismal view of our potential to change. Okay? So like I said, I'm not negating physical factors, but I'm just saying I think we have to be careful of saying that emotions are due to physical factors, or that emotions are physical factors. Yeah, both of which tend to be popular positions.
Female and male, the distribution of putting
Yeah, yeah. So another disadvantage is, well, women, because of their body, are like, nah, 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 and men, because of their body, are like, nah, 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 nah. And this is one of the big reasons that they use what, women are so emotional. Yeah, you have your period, so you're so emotional. But men are reasonable. Okay, well, I've seen men just as emotional as women, and I've seen women just as reasonable as men. And, I really have a difficult time buying into those stereotypical views. Yeah, and I think that, again, if you grow up hearing those, that you're a boy, you're a girl, therefore you should, or you are, or whatever, then again, it limits us and it traps us. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's something to think about, because that never comes up. Here there's 6, factors that make afflictions arise. And Buddha never once specified the brain or the genes. Yeah, quite interesting. Yeah, or hormones or whatever. On the other hand, you can't totally deny the influence of those things, too, I mean, because we know that, let's say, when we have a lot of, what's the one you have when you get angry? Adrenaline. Yeah, you know that when there's a lot of adrenaline in your system, that it affects your mind. But of course, maybe the mind got into that mood first, which made the adrenaline happen, which then keeps the mind in that mood. We don't really know. Yeah. Another reason I think this part can be dangerous is that it could very easily lead to, well, certain people have this kind of, you have a gene to be a criminal. Why are you a criminal? Because of your genes. So, what do? We should do genetic testing on everybody and round up all the people with a certain gene and either imprison them before they commit a crime or maybe kill them off before they commit a crime. Okay, it kind of, a little bit gruesome, isn't it? Yeah. So I think we have to be quite careful with these kinds of things.
Sounds to me like it's just another way of blaming mom.
It does, doesn't it? Why do I have problem? Mom and Dad, their genes, it's their fault. Yeah.
Plus, there's not anything anywhere that is happening just because of one thing.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Yeah, so everything's dependent on many factors, not just one thing. Okay. Then it's helpful to know when we talk about the afflictions, there's manifest afflictions and then there's dormant or latent afflictions. Okay. Manifest afflictions are the ones that are manifest in our mind, So, when you have manifest attachment, you are actively grasping whatever your version of chocolate is. Okay, I just say chocolate, but it means anything you're attached to, including that hot red sports car, or red hot sports car, or did you just get a red hot sports car?
It's really red. You've got to take a look.
Oh, is it a convertible? Is it a sports car? It's just red.
No, you put it in this button you push, and it just like.
I had no idea, believe me, when I got
I took it to the mechanic, I thought there was a problem with it.
Anyway, let's keep on.
Okay, So the manifest one is when our version of chocolate is red hot in our mind. Yeah. Or, manifest anger is the time when you're really angry. Okay. Latent anger or latent attachment is when you aren't manifestly angry or attached, but you aren't free of anger attachment either, because the seed, the latency of anger and attachment are in your mind. Okay, so right now you're not angry. Okay, are you an arhat who's free of anger? No. Okay, why not? Because there's still the seed of anger in your mind stream. Yeah, so that seed of anger is not a consciousness. It's one of those abstract composites. Yeah, it's not a consciousness. So I think this is very helpful to understand, because lots of times in psychology, they talk about repressed anger as if there's low-grade anger in your mind all the time, ready to flare up. As if there is like a kind of manifest but low-grade anger all the time. And from a Buddhist viewpoint, we wouldn't say that. Yeah, either the anger is manifest, little or big, or it's in a seed form, in which case, you're not angry at that moment. The challenge I find with the psychological view is that then you develop this image of, I'm angry all the time because I have repressed anger, ready to explode. Okay? I don't find that self-image to be very helpful for people. Yeah? As if, I'm actually angry all the time, it's repressed, it's going to explode, I don't find that a helpful way to look at our emotions, okay? But you can't say we're free of the anger either, okay? It's there, but in a latent form. Okay. So the seed of anger is what connects our anger today with our anger tomorrow, or let's give us the anger today and the anger the day after tomorrow. Let's give us a break, theoretically. Yeah. So, you have manifest anger today. It reduces in size. It's, as a seed of anger. And then the day after tomorrow, you see, whichever nitwit happens to be bugging you, and your anger explodes again. Okay, becomes manifest again. Okay, so then to go into the 6 causes, or the 6 triggers, that make the afflictions manifest in our mind. And again, it's usually a combination of some or all of these. It's usually not just one. You have to have several together. So the first one is the latencies of the afflictions. Okay, what we call the seed of the afflictions. So because the afflictions haven't been removed from our mind forever by application of the antidote, they can still come back. And other factors can stimulate them to arise. So this is why it's so important to realize emptiness, because it's only through that wisdom realizing emptiness that we can cleanse these latencies or seeds from our mind stream. And once they're cleansed from our mind stream, then no matter what somebody says, what somebody does to us, we don't get angry. Which would be really nice, wouldn't it? Okay, the second one is contact with the object. So, You know, we all have certain objects, and here object can mean a person, a place, an idea, a thing, you know, that sparks our afflictions to just explode. So, you know, we have some kind of food in front of us that we really like, and all of our you know, unshakable determinations to eat healthy food are shakeable. Yeah, and they're out the window because there's contact with the object. Okay, or same with anger. You know, when we just hear, this came up over the weekend, when we hear the name of the person who we don't like, just even contact with their name, whoa, anger comes up. Okay. So it can happen with, you know, all the other emotions too, or the different views. The third one is detrimental influences, such as bad friends. Okay, so what this means is that we are very influenced by the people around us. And although we like to think that it's only teenagers that experience peer pressure, actually it's us too, okay? And so we're very influenced. If our friends have a certain idea or opinion, then we want to fit in with them. So we accept their idea or opinion and don't think about things ourselves. Okay? We just, you know, we want to fit in. We want these people to like us. We don't want to stand out in any kind of way from either our family or our colleagues or whatever group it is. So we just adopt what they think. Yeah. So, you know, we can easily see, you know, we always focus on teenagers and, you know, oh, don't start drinking because your friends drink. You know, don't take drugs just because your friends take drugs. But what do the adults do? Yeah, they go to a party where people are drinking, even though they don't want to drink. They drink so that they'll fit in, so that people won't think they're weird, da-da-da-da-da. Okay? So, you know, it's important in this way to choose our friends wisely. You know? And for the guys that are incarcerated that I work with, you know, I always emphasize, when you get out, you know, one of the most important things you have to do is choose good friends. Because if you don't choose good friends, you're going to go back to all your old habits. You know, because the seeds of those habits are there. And if you're around your old friends, you know, those things will come back. So, you know, you really have to have good friends. And so that's similarly, you know, why we try and, you know, go to monasteries, dharma centers, temples, whatever, so that we can practice together with other people who think like we do, because we want to be influenced by them. Yeah. I remember one time, many years ago, yeah, I was talking to one young Rinpoche, and he was asking me who my friends were, and I told him, and he said, "You have very good friends." You know, that remark stuck in my mind, and I realized, yeah, you know, I have very good friends, and they've had a very good influence on me over the years because of it. Yeah. Okay. And you know, I should say here that for many people, when you get into Dharma, your friendships change, and that can often be a very disturbing thing to people, because they're very good friends with certain people. Then, you know, you start liking the Dharma more. You don't want to do the things that you used to do with your friends. or you want to talk about different things than you used to talk about with your circle of friends, and yet you have attachment for those people, and they have attachment for you, and you want to fit in with them still, but you don't want to fit in with them because they're doing the things that you don't want to do anymore. But if you don't do those things, then you're afraid they're not going to like you, and you know, you want everybody to like you, so you want to please them and be friends with them, but not be influenced by them. Yeah, everybody's gone through that, haven't you? Yeah, and it's a difficult kind of step, because you're in the process really of rethinking your values and rethinking your actions, and the tendency is to be attached to certain people. Yeah. You know, and sometimes with even what I would call a wrong kind of loyalty. Yeah. A wrong kind of loyalty, like just because we've been friends for so long, even though now they're doing horrible things, you know, they've gone downhill, I've gone into the Dharma, you know, this sense of, you know, funny kind of loyalty that somehow I've got to maintain the friendship, even though you don't really have anything so much in common anymore. Yeah? So it's a hard step for people to go through, to see how you've changed, your friends have changed, and then to make new friends. In my case, it was easy because I was out of the country, you know, and so I lived in India. You know, they didn't have computers and email and all this stuff at that time. So, and I was, you know, so I made a whole new set of friends there. I didn't have much money, so I didn't write to my friends here because I couldn't afford aerograms. And it made it all very easy. Yeah. And then, you know, everybody moves away, and so just kind of naturally it happened. There were no funny kind of things, you know. In subsequent years, you know, once in a while I contact a childhood friend, but it's, you know, kind of one conversation is good enough for 10 years. Yeah, that lasts me for 10 years, and that's okay. But it's a hard thing, yeah. And I think it's good to have some discussion around this, because it can be really troubling to people when they first get into the Dharma. Okay, then 4 is verbal stimuli, such as media, books, internet, TV, social media, magazine, films. Yeah. So it just says verbal stimuli. You know, they didn't have all these things at the time of the Buddha and the great Indian sages, but this is what it refers to, okay? And so you can really see how the media has become a prominent influence on our minds nowadays, you know, and how we need to be so careful how we relate to the media and how we let it influence us, you know, because if you just form a habit, whenever you get in the car, you turn on the radio, you're getting that influence. Not, you may listen to the news, but what about the advertising? What about all the other kinds of things? Or you come home from work, you're tired, you just want to watch TV or watch something on the computer. Yeah, what are you going to see? Either sex or violence, basically. And that's called entertainment, except when the violence is real. When it's Hollywood violence, it's entertainment. When it's real, it's terrible, it's fearful. Yeah. So, but it influences how we think and how we feel, doesn't it? No? And especially, I mean, we can see in this election how much all the things, you know, this non-stop of people, you know, this one says this, and that one says this, and this one criticizes that one, and that one criticizes this one, and on and on and on, and always getting updated, and, you know, your friend's Facebook page is always getting updated, and people are just overwhelmed now by too much verbal stimuli. And it just, it makes you think, it makes you overwhelmed so you can't think clearly, and it really makes your afflictions arise. Yeah, very easy. Yeah, there's certain people, they appear on your computer screen or your television, and it's like, I do not want to hear what this person has to say. Absolutely not. Yeah, anger arises. Mm-hmm. So, and then of course, you know, how the media influences our self-image and makes us feel that we're never good enough because we don't look like the people on the television. We're not as attractive as they are. Yeah, but they aren't as attractive in real life as they are on TV because everything's been airbrushed and altered and fixed. Yeah, so everybody develops a bad view of their own body. You know, and on and on. I mean, it's very, very interesting to watch how the media affects your mind. And then you see how you have to be really, really careful with it. And especially advertising, you know, how when something is on sale, we may not need it, but it's on sale, so why not get it? Yeah? It's on sale. Why not get it? It would be helpful, and we may need it sometime. And everybody else has it, and we'll be sexier if we have it. You know, that new computer plug will really, you know. Huh? But it's true. I mean, look how we go online, and you know, how do we pass time? We just go on this site and that site and buy this and buy that. And it's not necessarily things we need, but it might be nice to have it, and we might need it in the future. And so we spend a lot of money, and then, you know, UPS is driving all the way out here to deliver, you know, a toothbrush, which we could have bought when we're in town, but, you know, we ordered it online or, you know, whatever. And so, you know, we cause a lot of pollution in the air with the trucks. I know you were commenting on it, you know, because some days we'll have UPS, FedEx, and the Postal Service all coming, yeah? And then, you know, how much petrol is that putting in the air? Mm-hmm. And then all the cardboard boxes, of course we recycle everything, but still, you know, if a lot of these things you could get in town, you know, you wait a couple of days until somebody goes to town and you get them, and then you don't have all this excessive packaging that comes with things, you know, because you know, they send things, these huge boxes, and there's like, you know, one toothbrush inside, and then all this packing material. You know, it's bad for the environment.
And jobs get also not this attractive because people are working in warehouses now and packing things instead of working with people.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Trivia, but important one, that the cardboard we recycle goes on the freight boats back to China.
To recycle the cardboard, it goes on a freight boat
It goes on the freight boats to
back to China. It's not recycled here. Oh, that's real good for the environment. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, so we should really think about, you know, how we just go online, and then, of course, even you go to the store, tons of plastic bags, right, left, and center, which we don't really need. And you know, how many of us, when you get something at the store, just say, please keep the plastic bag and, you know, put it in our own bag, carry our own bags. Okay. Then number 5 is habitual ways of thinking and habitual emotions. So the more familiar we are with certain emotions, with certain perspectives on things, then those habits just come up. Yeah, you have a habit so that every time you're in a certain kind of situation, you get arrogant. In another type of situation, the habit is to judge other people. In another situation, the habit is to get angry. Yeah, so we're very much creatures of habit. And you know, in our Dharma practice, it's very important we look at our habits. Yeah, very important. And number 6 is inappropriate attention. Okay, so this is a mental factor that misinterprets events, exaggerates things being attractive or unattractive. It projects things, it projects meaning, it projects motivation. And usually we don't even recognize when our inappropriate attention is active, because we think that first of all, we think that we're seeing it directly with our eyes, with our visual consciousness. We're not realizing that it's the mental consciousness that's thinking all these things. First of all, that's one fault. Then the other problem is, you know, whatever we think, which we actually think we're seeing with our eyes, but we just believe it, you know. So we don't realize that all this mental factor of inappropriate intention is writing all these stories. So this one's the story writer. Okay. So-and-so said this and that to you. What they really mean is they're jealous of you and they're trying to destroy your reputation, and so you better, you know, go and defend yourself to them, and you better trash them behind their back so that, you know, other people won't think badly of you. And off we go, you know, with our drama starring me. That's all fictional. And we suffer because of it. Okay, so inappropriate attention. Okay, so to review them, yeah. First one was the latencies of the afflictions. Second was contact with the object, yeah, which is why monastics have precepts and why we don't put ourselves in contact with certain objects, because it makes those, you know, afflictions arise. 3 is detrimental influences from like bad friends. 4 is verbal stimuli. 5 is habitual ways of thinking and habitual motions. And then 6 is storytelling, i.e. inappropriate attention. Or story writing, I should say. Okay? So it's very good, you know, in your analytic meditation to go through these and make examples of each one and see, you know, which ones are very strong in you. I mean, they're probably all strong, but how each one is strong and in relation to what kind of objects or what kind of media, you know, what emotions, you know, how these different factors relate to different emotions and make them arise. Okay, so that, you know, using this as a schema and then going through the 6 root afflictions really helps us to get to know ourselves, you know, and how our mind works. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I just had a question, you know, when you mentioned the inappropriate attention, so I thought about the whole thing of proliferation, proliferating, and I was just kind of thinking, it seems like there's a connection there, you know, they've always been related, it seems like the book is
somewhere left.
Yeah, yeah. The whole thing of proliferations and inappropriate attention, very, very close. Yeah. There's many different ways of talking about the proliferations and the inappropriate attention. So, for example, the 4 distorted conceptions, sometimes they're called inappropriate attention, sometimes they're called proliferation. Yeah.
Remember when we talk about, say, affliction exaggerating the good qualities of another?
It's actually the inappropriate attention that exaggerates,
Right, that was,
and then the affliction
I'm sorry, attachment affliction.
adds on, is like the response to the exaggeration.
Okay, so is it fair to say then that this inappropriate attention is always then in relationship with these?
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to have inappropriate attention if you have afflictions arising. Okay. Because if you have wisdom active in your mind, you're not going to have afflictions arising. Okay? Yeah.
Under detrimental influence, I tend to think of peer pressure, but I think we get a lot of influence from people where there's not any pressure. It's just that it's an idea that we are exposed to, and we're like, oh, that sounds right to me, because it's only better.
Yeah, it could be that too. You know, that may come more from the media side, but detrimental influence is bad friends, and so just an idea that your bad friend says that we don't think about, like you said, well, yeah, sounds okay to me.
Well, the view of the personal identity and self-centeredness sound very similar.
No, they're different. The view of the personal identity grasps at an inherently existent person. The self-centeredness says my happiness, my liberation are more important than anybody else's. Okay, they're different.
Is it the self-grasping ignorance?
Yeah, the self-grasping ignorance would include the view of the personal identity. Self-grasping ignorance is like a broad category. Under that, you would have the self-grasping of phenomena and the self-grasping of persons. Within self-grasping of persons, one type is view of a personal identity, and the other one is, because that grasps at ourself, our own self is inherently existent, and the other branch is grasping other sentient beings as inherently existent. Okay. So self-grasping ignorance, quite broad. Okay, yeah.
I know they're different, but is the self-centered thought rooted in the self?
No, remember we talked about this before? An arhat who has eliminated ignorance still sees their own liberation. They cherish their own liberation and have no feeling for attaining Buddhahood. Yeah, so they're free of self-grasping, but they have that self-centeredness.